Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. I have 3 phones. None of them are turned on. Because I don't want people to use the phone as an excuse. Some of you have your emails come to your phones. You can do that now, right? Why you do that is beyond the pale to me. Has it made you any more successful? No. Has it made you any more money? No. Has it filled up your day with bullshit? Yes. Bill Gates' emails don't come to his motherfucking phone. But yours do. Are you more important than Bill? Success leaves clues, guys. The things that, as my Japanese partners used to say, big fucking hitter. The things that the big fucking hitters do that you don't, or vice versa. It's like I said the first night, I think. Why do new cars come out every year? It's not because your cars wear out anymore, right? Marketing. But you'll come up with a reason. And so I could have come up with a reason not to buy that Rolls Royce. I leased it. I didn't buy it. I ultimately bought it, but I leased it. Because my sales manager, who told me I should close every fucker that walked through the door, I didn't relate that to dollars and cents. But during that period, for the first 15 months, as I finished graduate school and I got ready to go to law school, and I'm selling real estate, I went through 13 cars in 15 months. Like a drunken sailor. I was 24 years old. Fuck. And then some of the cars I had were chick magnets. That ultimately turned into a deal magnet, but not a chick magnet, because the 20, 22, 24, 25-year-old kids, gals at school didn't fucking understand what that was. But the people that I sold real estate to certainly did. You'll come up with 1,000 reasons why not to increase your lifestyle. One of the things that Simon the Nazi didn't say in this webinar, but he said it in previous webinars, is he moved into an apartment that cost 40,000 euros a month from his little, where we live. That's a lot of money. Okay? This is before he did deals. Of course, he got the Bentley, and now he's ordered the Rolls. He sold all his gold, crypto, and silver. So he didn't have, of course, he turned that into cash, but he bought new clothes, he bought all this shit, so he wouldn't have a backup. And in his way, he burned the ships. Nobody does that. And it's not just one thing, it's a bunch of one things that causes default. I used to go see my mom once a quarter, whether I needed it or not. Once a quarter. And as soon as I arrived, I knew it was a mistake. I used to get, not nauseous, that's an exaggeration, but I used to feel queasy, that's an exaggeration. But I felt funny as my driver was driving me there. So after, hi, how are you? And she used to grab me by the neck to see how long my hair was, because her eyesight started to fade as she got old. Whether I needed a haircut. When she hugged and kissed me. And after that, we didn't have much to talk about. I've told you this on YouTube. Here, 25, 30 years ago, I used to go to weddings and funerals. And then after a funeral, where do you go? You go back to the person's house, have coffee and drinks and shit, you know. And the men would congregate in a room and talk shit or football, right? And the women would waddle their fat asses around the kitchen, making food that nobody wanted to eat. That's pretty much the same. It hasn't changed much. But now they call it Uber food, or they bring food in. And as I walked in the room, my dad would say, "This is my son that lives in a castle." That's how I was introduced. And I told my dad, "If you do that again, Dad, I'm not going to come to any more funerals." Couldn't help himself, just like the nymph. And then that was the last funeral I went to. Subsequently, weddings, same thing. When I was single, I used to like weddings because weddings was a good place to pick up chicks to get fucked. All drunked up, and shit. This is my son that lives in a castle. I told that story many, many times, but about 5 years ago, I had a girl from Mexico who was a brain surgeon. And she said, "Oh my God, my mother introduces me. This is my a brain surgeon daughter who graduated first in her class, who has an Olympic swimming pool." I go, "What?" She says, "Yeah." It was embarrassing. But she still goes. That helps her ego. I don't need smoke to be blowing up my ass. It's going to be a bitch when you leave here. Not going to be easy. In fact, the reason why it's even going to be harder than hard in the beginning is because you've got to break a bunch of habits. You don't have to break any habits, but if you follow through with the system, you're going to have to break a bunch of habits, and you're going to have to start pulling those. And when you're rewiring yourself like the backward bicycle, it's not a simple, like when in Mission Impossible, when they're going to stop the atomic bomb, they snip 2 or 3 wires. These fucking things have to be pulled out of your skull, and it's painful. And it's painful. Last night you saw a thing about fear with one of the famous actors, Hemsworth, or whatever his name, an Australian kid. And the training that he went through to do some of the things he did. And now it's a TV series on Discovery. I related most to when he was up on the building. I've done similar things, but not exactly that. And as I told you, I think the first and or the second day, he told you to look at Dan Does the Extreme. And because the more successful I got, the more satiated I got. The more satiated I got, the lazier I got. And I stopped stepping out of my comfort zone, and I stopped being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Because I made a lot of money quickly. And so I did crazy shit so I could, come out of the blocks like you guys at Box. And when you got everything, and you haven't had to work since the summer of 1984, as the kids in the universities asked me, "Mr. Peña, how do you get up in the morning?" And by the time I was in my early 40s, I'd bought and done everything I ever wanted to do. And then by the time I was in my late 40s, I ran out of shit to buy. Remember, I spent 120% of everything I made. Fuck. How much shit can you buy? You can buy a lot of shit. And that's why when I turned 60, it took us 6 or 7 years to downsize, get rid of all the shit. I have a painting in storage, a very famous painting. It's about from where the young man's sitting there to here, and about 8 feet high. It's the kind of paintings you see in museums. And when I bought it at auction many years ago from Sotheby's, I misread centimeters for meters. And I didn't know I was buying a 22-foot size painting, because even little paintings cost millions or hundreds of thousands. And when they delivered it here, I'm not embarrassed too easily, but fuck, how could I fuck that up? And no wall in the castle was big enough. We'd have to add a wing. So it leaned against the wall where the bathroom is in the grand hall for a year or two. And then finally, I tried to give it to museums. but it's sitting in storage in Aberdeen. It's still there. And so my goal then was, I got to get a house big enough to put the fucking thing in. And then Sally said, no. This castle estate, depending on how you count, has had either 7 or 8 renovations. 7 or 8, depending on what you call it, renovation. I don't count this pavilion that we built as a renovation. And so it's, it'll probably sit there. We're redoing our estate planning. We're going to gift it to somebody. But I misread centimeters for meters. And so I do make mistakes occasionally. But when I make mistakes, they're expensive mistakes. So I've always done that. And as we've talked over the last couple of days, you're taught to have 6 months savings in reserve, have saved this, do that. Okay. I've never done that. I've never felt the need, because I always knew that making money to me has been easy. It's always been easy to me. Chicks have always been easy for me. Mainly, I guess, because I never thought they were hard. I mean, this is so fucking simple. Now you're going to see some retards in the rest of the webinars. You may even feel sorry for them. That's not why I'm showing them to you. I don't bring the guys with Asperger and a couple of retarded kids. I don't do that because I don't think that's right. But it's so fucking easy. Most of you brushed your teeth this morning, right? If you didn't, I don't want to know though. But anyway, most of you brushed your teeth. That's how easy it is. But you got to pull the trigger. You got to pull the trigger. I should have never got rid of that car, but I did. I used to have 23, 25 cars. Just to collect them. It's a phase that some of you will go through. I recommend you don't go through it, but you'll go through it. But I thank old Kelly Norwood, the old reprobate that he was. If he hadn't said that, and my sales team that I ran outsold everybody in the country by multiples. You are who you hang around with. And because they hung around with me and they saw me selling, and I always led from the front, they all made gobs of money. And you've heard the stories. I used to tape the phone to their hand with duct tape. What hand do you wipe your ass with? And then I taped the phone to that hand that you wiped your ass with. And I used to sit up on a thing like this. And I had 450 salesmen. And if I didn't see the glitter from the lights on that motherfucking duct tape, boom! I was on you like the Flash. You used to have to ask permission to go take a piss, because you had to unduct tape your hand. When I walked in the morning at 7, I didn't say, did we do any business overnight? I want to know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we did. And I've done some sales training for some of the biggest companies on the planet. Toyota USA, Bank of America. Goodbye, YouTube.